right, let's start this off with the MLB and the trades. So there were a lot of speculations and rumors around Yasmani Grandal, going to the Reds, going back to the Brewers, and for some reason, the White Sox decided to pick him up. No one expected it. They already had a catcher in James McCann, who hit close to 280 last year with 18 home runs and was an all-star. And they decided to pick up Yasmani Grandal for 4 years, $18 million a year. And he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's going into his age 32 season. And for a catcher, that is pretty old. So I don't really see what the White Sox were thinking with this one. I understand that they can DH him, but they have James McCann. Maybe I guess they trade him, get more pitching, which they really need. Their lineup is pretty set right now. But, he's not a great fielder to begin with, and he's only, getting older. And, I just don't see it as a terrific deal.
Yeah, I feel like with something like that, when you load up people at one specific position, it's usually not smart for the team. Like, for example, if you look at the Yankees, like, now they have to trade one of their third basemen. They had both Torres and DJ LeMahieu, so obviously DJ moved over to first. But, I mean, not everybody's always, like, so flexible. Like, at least somebody like that plays second base, like DJ LeMahieu, he can play first base. But for a catcher, it's a little bit more difficult.
It's a totally different story when it's an infielder or an outfielder versus a catcher, because they're very limited in what they can play. But since he's in the AL, he can DH. And now I'm going to switch over to the Yankees really quick. You mentioned the Yankees. I would not mind. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Didi. I want him back in pinstripes, but I don't really see it happening, because next year, if you think about it, they're going to have about the same amount of depth, and the reason why I say that is because you have DJ or Torres at short; they can alternate.
Correct.
And at second as well. They'll have Andujar and Urshela battling it out for third base.
They could trade one of them as well.
Yeah, they could. That's exactly what I mean. Like, once one of them, loses the job, they just give him away. Or if Andujar proves that he cannot field whatsoever, he'll be the DH. And because that man can hit. And then at first base, you have Luke Voigt starting every day. And as your backup, you have Mike Ford, who was phenomenal in the months that he played. He was really good. He hit a pinch hit walk-off home run against Oakland late in the year, and he was all around a great player for that month. And so that adds a lot of depth for first base. I don't think that they're getting back Encarnacion. I don't see any need for him. Yeah. I say he's gone.
I don't think many teams are going to be looking for him, like, after they saw how he played in the playoffs. That was.
Oh yeah. Besides the divisional round, he was horrendous. Yeah, absolutely horrendous.
Between him and Sanchez, they were both terrible. But at least Sanchez, like, he has some potential. He's young, and the Yankees, they need him to play to be their catcher, and obviously Austin Romine's their backup in case he gets injured. And also, he's really good behind the when they're fielding, but it's.
No, I know what you mean.
It's just a tough spot.
And also, the Yankees, Austin Romine is a free agent this year, which I know is not a big name.
Yeah.
But the Yankees need a backup catcher. Higashioka is not the answer. They need to re-sign him for, I'd say, $4 million a year for 4 years, or maybe even 3. Just lock him up as that backup for the next couple of years. Yeah. And your future is pretty much set, for the offensive side of the ball. And now for the pitching and defensive side, what I see is Garrett Cole is getting a lot of hype for people are thinking that he's going to the Yankees. Some people think he's going to the Angels. CC has been talking to him.
Yeah, but CC said specifically you got to pay him.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're going to pay him if he comes. The Yankees absolutely need starting pitching, and he is most likely the answer. In the World Series, I have to say he was burnt, but that's because the Astros used him too much. They don't have a great bullpen like the Yankees do, and Garrett Cole will have less innings, most likely less strikeouts.
That's true.
But he'll have a much better postseason performance late.
Yeah, because I feel like he's better than Justin Verlander right now, and that's not because I'm just biased because maybe he might go to the Yankees.
I agree with you.
But I legit like when I watch him pitch, it's just he's just looking better out there than Justin Verlander, especially
he also has like a presence, like when he's there, you're like, oh boy, you know when he's on.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like a pitch like his rising fastball, like we saw it so many times during the postseason, and it like if you're watching from a TV, it doesn't even look like it's going up from the beginning. Like it looks like I know it's a fastball, but it looks like a deceptive pitch. It becomes a deceptive pitch. Because it looks like it's going straight, and it looks like it's heading for the top of the zone, and it looks like at the end, it just goes up.
I hear you, and that's really tough for hitters, and it kind of showed throughout the playoffs. And then he did not really have that life in the World Series.
Yeah,
and he got rocked by the Nationals, and you also have to remember, and you have to take into account that the Astros get worse when this happens. I understand that they're getting McCullers Jr. back, but he's nowhere near as good as Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
And, the Yankees have to get over the Astros hump, and by weakening them and strengthening themselves at the same time, you really increase your odds to do so. And Verlander's only getting older. I don't see him keeping this up for that much longer. Yeah. He's like 37 already. He's no Nelson Cruz, if you will, who hit over 40 home runs last year in his age 38 season.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Austin Romine for a second, because he honestly he did play pretty solid, like when Gary Sanchez was injured.
And he's great defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. I know that I know I said this before. I know he's not a big name, but you have to take into account, those off days that Sanchez will have, or Sanchez. If Sanchez gets injured, you need someone else to step up, and Romine is that guy.
You can even play the DH if you want, or Sanchez. It doesn't matter.
I'd say Sanchez, put him at the DH. I'd rather have him than Romine. Romine is not in there for his bat.
But he did hit pretty well when he was needed.
I hear you, but that's not his priority. But
yeah, I guess Sanchez, because he's like the power hitter.
Yeah, he's no power hitter. But he can hit for like relatively decent average. And with Romine, if he plays for too long, for a certain period of time, he wears himself out, and he kind of loses a little bit, which is why his batting average decreased. When he was filling in for Sanchez. So his role with the Yankees was absolutely perfect when Sanchez was there, and that's when they were winning games. When Sanchez wasn't there, they actually went on an awful cold streak, and they finally came out of it when they were playing the White Sox, where they lost 11 of 14 or something like that. It was terrible in the month of July or August. And Sanchez came back, and they started winning again. And it's not necessarily because of his bat, but it's because of the role that Romine played. It's because he knows how to fit that role. He doesn't know how to necessarily be a starter on the Yankees, because, as I said, he wears himself out.
Yeah, and also, I know we've been talking a lot about pitchers. I feel like they're getting, with Garrett Cole and Strasburg, obviously. But the thing is, there's so much attention put on the pitchers that it's almost like we're not completely forgetting, but we're a little bit forgetting about the fact that there's other guys that could be moved this offseason as well. Anthony Rendon is a free agent. You could see Mookie Betts get moved.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And they're thinking about Chris Bryant and Francisco Lindor, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard, because the Indians were 2 games out of the wild card last year. And you want to improve, you want to get that wild card spot. I don't see why
Yeah.
they, want to trade him. And Chris Bryant, they want to trade from the Cubs.
Yeah, the Cubs.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, great player. I can understand the Mookie Betts thing. He's not going to have any of those MVP seasons anymore like he had in 2018. He's still going to be great. He's still going to be very good. But he's coming into his final season season of the contract that he has with the Red Sox. He did not sign that extension.
Yeah.
Which is why it would make the Red Sox wouldn't be that dumb to make this deal.
Yeah, and he could be a useful asset to like contenders that need an outfielder.
Yeah. And one last thing that I want to point out there before we move on is Betances. He is a free agent this year. I know he did not play at all last year, really.
But I don't
see the Yankees signing him back. And the Yankees, by the way, just got rid of a relief pitcher, Nestor Cortez Jr. They gave him to Seattle for cash, which weakens their bullpen a little bit. And I really don't see them getting Betances back. So, not that they have a really big issue, but they need a starting pitcher if they're going to lose that that arm in the bullpen.
So are you saying, you're saying they're going to lose Betances, so they really need a starting pitcher, correct?
Yeah. So they have to get out and get that Strasburg, that Cole.
Yeah, because even if they miss out on Garrett Cole, because obviously that's option number one. But if he decides, New York's not for me,
Angels or something.
Yeah, there's still Strasburg. Obviously, I think there were some other teams that said they were going all out for Strasburg as well. But obviously the Yankees, they have money. They didn't sign Didi. I don't
see him coming back.
They didn't sign Edwin. I mean, I guess they could get him back if they still have money after they get everybody else. But obviously, pitchers are priority because they already have infielders and they already have a solid amount of outfielders. It's just that the starting pitching role.
And even if Garrett Cole, as you said, doesn't go, even if he doesn't go to the Yankees, as long as he doesn't go to the Astros, the Yankees are in a better position than they were last year coming into the season.
Yeah, I really don't see him returning to the Astros, considering that he was upset.
They lost the World Series. Yeah, they overused him.
And also, especially with something like a situation where Justin Verlander is winning the Cy Young. Now, I'm not trying to make. I'm not.
I know exactly where you're going with this, and it's 100% correct.
I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth or anything like that, but I feel like certainly I feel like a lot of people might think he's a better pitcher, and he probably again I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but he might think that as well. So there might be a little bit of tension, a little bit of jealousy brewing there.
Also, they were on the same team, both of them Cy Young candidates. I personally believe that Garrett Cole was the better, person to win it.
Yeah.
But Verlander came out on top, and I think it's because of, how spectacular he was for his age. He threw another no-hitter. But Garrett Cole had the better stats, more strikeouts, more innings pitched, one less win, one less loss, more... pretty much everything. He just was overall, I believe, a much better pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody says it should be Justin Verlander, you could just tell them, go watch the Astros play. Go watch some of the Astros games this season. It was clear that Garrett Cole was the more unhittable guy. Yeah,
especially when he was on, and he went 19-0 since May, which is unheard of. It was a new record. It was just ridiculous, and which kind of tells you, he did not get off to the hottest start, but he really picked it up.
Yeah.
By the way, that includes the playoffs, but which is even more absurd.
Yeah. So where do you think Strasburg's going to land, though?
I think he's coming back to the Nationals. I know that he opted out of that contract, but he just wanted to go for the money. He's not going to have many more years to get this money. He's already heading into his age 30 or 31 season. There's not much of a window open, so I think it was smart of him to opt out. He's going to get his money, and I see him staying with the Nationals, and I also see Rendon staying there.
So you think they have enough money to get them both?
They're going to have to pay him a lot, but I see him staying. Howie Kendrick, I know that he wants to stay, but I don't know that the Nationals sign him back.
Yeah. I also wanted to bring up. Obviously, Strasburg was really good in the playoffs. World Series MVP and everything.
Yeah, season stats were
but at the
but not great.
At the same time, I'm pretty sure he had an ERA above a 3, which is not.
Yeah. It was 3.3 something. Exactly. 2, I believe.
So you have to take that into consideration, and if the Yankees or for that matter any other team are looking to sign him, you also have to consider the fact that he might not be able to do exactly what you expect him to do, so you don't want to overpay him and overrate him either.
Yeah. You can't expect too much of him. You can't. I mean, I do see him having a better season than last year. Part one because, people were able to recognize him and see that he's actually better than Scherzer. Than Scherzer. So now he has higher expectations for himself.
Yeah.
And so I believe that he'll have a sub-3 ERA, maybe hovering around 3, but just below the 3 ERA. I see him having around the same amount of wins as last year, 18-19, which is really good. And I see him as being a better pitcher and teammate next year.
Yeah, and if you look at the free agent pool this year, the Yankees aren't really losing anybody like that big. So, but the thing is, the Astros and the Nationals both they both could lose one, or in the Nationals' case, 2 of their top players. So,
yeah.
If any of those players leave their teams, it's a huge advantage for all the other contenders.
Yeah, the people that lost them in the playoffs.
Correct, like the Yankees and the Rays.
The pitchers are the main people that they need back. And that's pitching wins ball games.
Yeah, and also with the recent Astros scandal, we haven't touched on that yet, but
yeah, that makes it even more likely that their players are going to leave. That Cole's going to leave. He doesn't want to be part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will still probably be punished just because of the fact that he was on the roster.
He was part of it,
but the thing is, I'm not even talking about Garrett Cole, but that could be that could demoralize the whole team, and we don't know what's going to happen to the GM. There's obviously still talking it through, but it looks like, well, obviously as a Yankee fan, I want them to see them punished pretty bad, but whether it's bad or not, they're going to be punished in some way, shape, or form. There's way too much evidence that shows they have former players coming out and saying that they cheated, and if that doesn't prove to you that they cheated, I don't know what will.
And 100%. And then in other news, managerial wise, Mets got Carlos Beltran. I believe that's a good pickup. I'm not going to go into too much depth. It's not huge news. Former Phillies manager Gabe Kapler signs with the Giants after Bochy retires, and that's pretty much it. And Dave Martinez would have been heading out, but the Nationals turned it around after that 19-31 start and won the World Series, and he's staying.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up one more baseball-related thing. Well, actually, this kind of applies to all sports, but we're talking about free agent transactions and things like that. But a lot of times, just as fans, we don't think about what goes into the job of the GM. There's just so many things to consider every time you make a move, whether it's paying players, basically just finances, the team's location, how the rest of the team's going to react. There's so many things, and when you're trading, there's you got to deal with salaries and this exception and draft picks and what's going to help your team.
The most of the salary if a big name player's coming in.
Exactly.
Or, how do you handle money? How do you throw money at players? You got to predict stuff.
Yeah,
I hear you.
That's only half of it, because they also have to deal with the business aspect of the team. And the
And yeah, what if the players, and Antonio Brown, what do you do then?
yeah,
The Steelers got screwed. The Patriots didn't really screw themselves. They took a chance, and he blew it himself, so they didn't have to do anything.
yeah. So obviously, there's really bad GMs, Phil Jackson, but
We don't even have to go into that. It's self-explanatory.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of times, I feel like GMs don't get the credit they deserve.
Yeah, or the discredit in some cases.
Yeah, in Phil Jackson's case.
Yeah, of course.
It's very hard to do a good job, but it's very hard to do as bad a job as he did.
Yeah. And anyway, moving on to the NBA with Phil Jackson. So Eastern Conference. I just want to quickly jump right into the Nets. They were not looking that great for a little while. They just came off their 4th straight win. They are currently in the 7th seed, right behind the Pacers at 9-8, and they're looking pretty strong. I know that they barely beat the Knicks, but the Knicks played phenomenal basketball that game. Choked at the end, but played phenomenal basketball, and the Nets have been playing great basketball. For the past few games.
Yeah, obviously we don't know how good KD's going to be when he returns. We don't know if he's going to be the best player in the NBA. When he's going to return,
exactly.
We don't know if maybe he won't even be an all-star. Obviously, that's a stretch.
But, he's probably not going to.
But then also, you have, again, rumors flying around about Kyrie in the locker room and all that stuff. So, obviously, they're not doing so bad. It's not. I don't think. I think I expected them to be better, but they obviously they still have time to get things together. They're 9-8, so I expected them to be in the top 5.
They're in the spot right now, and the East is not that strong. The 8th seed is well behind them. They lost 3 straight, by the way. The Magic. So they're 6-10. The Nets have a really big cushion right now in the 7th seed. Yes, they want to get much higher. They want to past the Pacers. They want to pass the Sixers. And, maybe catch up to the Raptors, getting that 5 and 4 seed area. But the top 4 seeds, the Sixers, although they're good on paper, have not gelled yet.
Yeah.
But the top 4 seeds, the Bucks, Celtics, Heat, and surprisingly the Raptors have played tremendous basketball. The Raptors just came off their 4th straight win. They're 12-4. They're looking really dominant out there. They're tied with the Heat and Celtics for that second spot. And, they've been really solid. Siakam has been phenomenal this year. He's really, taken over the role that Kawhi had last year. And, he's moving the ball around. Lowry's doing Lowry's been out.
Yeah, they're playing as a team. And also,
but that team is overachieved in my opinion, and they really seem to be playing within themselves.
They're playing like
continuing that defensive game, and not allowing the other team to score while Siakam kind of moves the ball around and gets point creation and stuff.
Yeah, and moving on to the Celtics, they obviously one of their best players. Probably their best player, Kemba Walker, suffered a pretty scary injury. I'm surprised he's only day-to-day, so we'll see how that affects their record. They'll probably play a little worse. They might drop a couple of games before he comes back. But once he's back, as long as he's back on track and playing as good as he should be, as the All-Star we know him to be, they should be back on track. And also, and the Miami Heat, honestly, I didn't expect them to do that. I didn't see this
coming before the season, but their young talent has been really, really phenomenal, and Jimmy Butler has helped them, really gel. It almost is like, I'm not saying that he's a mentor, but he's almost, coaching them in a sense. He must be really good in the locker room because they they've really gelled together in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, now that you mentioned the locker room, I think from the Timberwolves to the Sixers to now, maybe there's something we don't know about. That's like an outside kind of thing, but as far as I'm concerned, it looks like he's not having the same issues in the locker room that he did when he was with the Timberwolves. So and
Who?
Jimmy Butler.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so it looks
he was having some really big issues. He wanted to get out of there.
Yeah,
and that team was underachieving as well, which might have been part of it.
Yeah, because obviously he mentioned their work ethic, and that might play a part in the fact that they're only the seventh seed. Because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a lot of people were, including myself, were saying this is going to be a team that's at the top of the league for years to come.
Made the playoffs.
Yeah, and because remember at one point that team had Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine,
Jimmy Butler, Crawford.
Exactly. So back then you were like, "Oh, this team could be like the next dynasty," but that hasn't happened. Obviously,
they fell into themselves.
Yeah, obviously, Jimmy Butler has said that Cat's lazy, and Wiggins he's playing better this season. We'll see how things go. But
I don't really see much in Wiggins. I personally, I believe that he's a little overrated. He kind of. He does not perform too well in the clutch, I don't believe.
Up until this season, I thought he was a bust. But
I still think that he's a little bit. I know he's playing better, but they had a shot to do really well the past few seasons. They just haven't done anything. So in that sense, he is a bust. But maybe he can come out of it. Maybe he can help his team. Get to another playoff berth. But until he really proves himself, I still think he's a bust, especially for how hyped he was.
Yeah, and also Giannis just had a 50-point game last night.
Yeah, ridiculous.
One of the best games of his career, if not the best.
Bucks have just come off their 8th straight win. They're 14-3, sitting on the top of the conference, the Eastern Conference, and they're far and away the best team.
Yeah,
they're already 1.5 games up.
Yeah, they're absolutely red hot right now.
Yeah, they have a really good team. They have the two brothers, the two Lopez brothers, who really seem to like playing, together. And Giannis is, doing his part, of course, in scoring and just defense and all around on both sides of the ball. He's been, terrific.
Yeah, but the scary part is their second best player, Chris Middleton, is injured right now. And they're on an 8-game winning streak. So just imagine what's going to happen when he comes back. They still have Eric Bledsoe.
I know. Exactly. They're playing, without their one of their key players, and they're still able to win. I think Giannis just kind of put the team on his shoulders and was like, "Here, I'll give you some wins."
Yeah.
And they've been playing terrifically.
And also at the same time, this is a team that a lot of people before the season started, they're like, this team lost Malcolm Brogdon. That's a huge loss.
I know.
And they're like, this team is not going to be as good. But so far, so good.
The Pacers are doing well with Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah. So moving over to the Western Conference, the Lakers obviously still at the top of the division.
They're like the Bucks of the Western. I believe that they're better than the Bucks. At 15-2 right now, also on an 8-game winning streak, and they just got Rondo back.
Yeah, and it seems like after their loss against the Clippers, I said this last time, they got it together, and they haven't.
And the Clippers, and speaking of the Clippers, they're starting to come up with big wins, 5 straight, by the way.
Yeah, Paul George is back.
Exactly. Paul George is back. Kawhi's, playing really well. And the Mavericks are also up there, which really surprised me. I thought that they were going to be around, 6th or 7th seed, coming into the season.
Yeah, but Luka Doncic is...
the season's not over yet. It's far from over, but they've really, been playing terrific. And Porzingis has been really good. Doncic has been absolutely outstanding. He's been... there's no words for how good he's been.
Yeah, and
he, plays his own game. He takes his time. He's like really good.
It's only his second season, and it looks like he might.
He already seems like a veteran, yeah.
And the scary thing is, him and Giannis are two of the younger players in the league, and they're the two leaders in the MVP conversation right now. I know it's early, but Luka Doncic is damn near averaging a triple double.
And is helping his team win. When you're doing both, it's outstanding.
And it's translating. Unlike that point guard in the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Speaking of triple doubles, let's move on to Rockets, who are trying way too hard to only get triple doubles and are forgetting about wins. I know that they're in that fifth spot, but they are coming off their third straight loss. They're not looking too pretty. They've been playing sloppy basketball the past few games. I know that the record isn't that bad, 11-6, but they just did not seem that good to me when they started the season.
Yeah.
I watched them play the Nets when the Nets were not doing too hot, and they were sloppy. It was a lot of sloppy basketball.
Yeah.
A lot of unnecessary shots.
I don't think honestly that it's a problem with the stat chasing though at this point. I think it's more of the fact that they just don't have that chemistry. I mean, you look at Russell Westbrook the other day. He dribbled around like he was in transition.
I saw, yeah.
He took it to the corner. He was dribbling way too much, and he drives it and gets a turnover. That's something that I would expect of myself,
and Harden
not of an NBA MVP, a former MVP.
Yeah, this is really you can't have that from a former MVP. Exactly. And they have a great rebounder. I know that they have a great rebounder. So they have some cushion, for taking silly shots. But it's absurd when you're just turning the ball over by pretty much just handing it to the other team. You can take shots, 3-pointers that are relatively contested. You can take a lot of shots when you have a good rebounder, but you can't be heaving up ridiculous shots or dribbling around like you don't have anyone else on the team. They've been horrible last few games.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And I also want to talk about another two teams that have surprised me and how bad they are, which is the Portland Trailblazers and the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, horrible this season.
Because I thought the Blazers would be great. They have Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Hassan Whiteside. They have a lot of nice young pieces, and they're a 12th seed. They're 6-12. I mean, this is not a good look.
I know that they came off a win, but that doesn't really show anything.
They might have spent too much time in the studio this past summer.
Yeah. And
the Spurs, I mean, they have a... I didn't expect them to be great,
that much from them.
But I feel like they have some good pieces. They have LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan. So I expect them to be somewhere around the 9 seed. So
yeah, and they're 1-9 in the last 10 games. Beyond awful.
Yeah. And the last team.
The Warriors. Just riddled with injuries and misfortunes and just bad playmaking. You don't need to say anything. They're just that bad.
Yeah, I mean, we remember that song that Drake had 0 to 100 where he mentioned Steph Curry, right? But instead of going from 0 to 100, it looks like their team record went from 100 to 0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they backfired 100%. And their win percentage is 167. That is so bad. In baseball, you wouldn't even be playing, and that's a game of failure. You wouldn't even be playing with that batting average. They're beyond that. 3-15. I mean, it really doesn't get much worse.
I mean, obviously they don't have Steph and Clay right now, but you do have Draymond Green. So obviously, after all those seasons,
they should be winning. The easy games against the Grizzlies. I will say that the West is a much harder conference than the East. Because, every team seems relatively decent. But, if they play any of the East teams, like, the Knicks, Hawks, Cavs, even the Bulls, they should be able to beat them up. And they're just not able to.
Yeah, and I think after all those seasons with first, obviously, Steph, Clay, and Dre, and then they added KD. And now Draymond actually has a time to shine to back up all that smack talk he's been doing
Yeah, and
all
he
these
has not been
past
able to
years,
produce.
and he just can't back it up. And now
He
now
cannot
he's gone
produce.
silent. Before he was a big ass loudmouth.
100% correct. He has not said a word, nothing. This year, no, weird comments, just
Yup,
nothing.
no nut kicking.
Yeah, well, they're not playing any competitive games, so they don't need that.
Yep, that's true.
And I mean, the West, the top 3 or 4 seeds, I'd say, probably top 3, are looking really solid. Nurkic, or Jokic, excuse me,
Yeah.
Jokic, when he's not on, shooting wise, or when he can't really drive that well that day, he'll just pass. And I watched him the last game. He was making some phenomenal passing. And, passes don't really go into slumps. Passing does not really go into a slump.
Yeah.
Shooting can. And when he realizes that he's not on with that game, with that part of his game, he'll pass.
Yeah.
He'll make plays happen.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Rockets need to figure out. When one of their, when Russ can't shoot, when Harden can't shoot, they're just gonna lose because they don't distribute the basketball.
Yeah, it's like watching a lot of little kids now playing basketball. Yeah. Like all they do is watch Steph Curry on TV. They think it's cool, and then now they just hop on the court and they just chuck shots from 3. And it's not even like they ever go like. They barely ever go into the paint.
It's not even
their
smart
first
shots. It's just whatever they want to take.
Yeah, they come onto the court and their first shot is a 3, and number one, like it just demonstrates how bad a team can get when they just rely on their shooting so much, because you see now when kids are playing competitively and all they do is shoot, and then now all of a sudden they're not making their shots. And then now nobody can score.
Yeah.
I
feel like the NBA, right now, using the Rockets as an example, is extraordinarily, irritating and boring when you have that as a case. It's very, very hard to watch when you have a team who's just shooting. Even if they make, most of their shots, it's very hard to watch. I sometimes have to turn off the TV when I see that happening. It's just super hard to watch. They take ridiculous shots that don't need to be taken. Like, they still have a lot of time on the shot clock, and, they just heave up a random shot. Or they waste time, just dribbling, or, as what, Russ did. Or as Harden would do, he'll walk up the court very slowly, and, when there are 10 seconds left on the shot clock, he'll start doing something. And it's just very, very boring. It makes the game go a lot slower.
At least Harden can make some things happen, though. Like Russ, on the other hand, it's a different story. And it just goes back to basic basketball, quick move and go, and rebound and play defense
also,
and all that kind of stuff.
Pick and rolls. You don't see any pick and rolls from that team. There's like...
Capella's setting a lot of screens. Capella's, doing his stuff, catching lobs and... But I see what you're saying. Like Clint Capella's their main guy.
No, but he just, in a sense, he's just there to get rebounds, because they're not really passing it to him that much unless it's a lob. They're just, saying, here, I'm just going to chuck up a random shot, and you better get the rebound and pass it back out to me so I can do it again.
Yeah, I could see why you're saying that. So jumping into football, I just have to say that Lamar Jackson has. I don't know. This man's been unreal this season. Like, compared to last season, he's a lot better.
And Dalvin Cook, too. You got to take him into account, because no one knew who he was, and now he's all of a sudden an MVP candidate.
But no, because never mind. But anyway, Lamar Jackson is honestly, him and Russell Wilson are probably obviously the top MVP candidates for this season. But I don't see anybody taking down Lamar Jackson. Like, earlier in the season, I was like, it's Russell Wilson, but now just after seeing what Lamar Jackson's doing, I
Yeah, he
don't think
kept
he
it
could
up.
take it away.
Everyone knew that Wilson could keep it up because he's proven it. He's done it
Yeah.
before, and he has kept it up. No one predicted Lamar Jackson to do it because he did not have a phenomenal rookie season. This is his second chance. This is his sophomore season, and I guess that there were some expectations, but he's well exceeded them, and he's proven that he can be a top, really high quality player.
Yeah. By the way, the only reason why I was like earlier was
I
because
know.
Dalvin Cook plays for the Vikings.
I know that.
Oh, okay.
It just reminded me of him.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. And
I know. It's kind of
yeah, I know it was kind of out of nowhere. But the Patriots are still 10-1. The 49ers are doing well. Actually the Patriots barely beat the Cowboys. I mean, some BS calls went their way, and they obviously got away with the win. I'm not saying the Cowboys would have won.
The world's weakest division I've ever seen.
I'm not saying the Cowboys would have won, but I'm saying they would have had a much better chance. And they have a very good team over there.
Yeah. And they have, they have a very good team on paper. They might be underperforming just a little bit, because they're 6-5.
Mm-hmm.
But they always are competitive, and like every game, it's always close. I know that they lost to the Jets. You can rag on them for that, and by the way, you should. From when the Jets were playing, terribly, no one should be losing to them.
Yeah.
But they've been competitive in almost every single game.
Yeah. But
their record might not show it, but they've been competitive in almost every single game.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about Christian McCaffrey for a second because he was one of the top MVP candidates just not too long ago, but it looks like, I mean, there's two things I want to talk about here. One is that his team's record is not helping. They're 5-6. I'm not saying that's terrible, but compared to, they're not going to make the playoffs because the Saints are their division leader, and it looks like they're not going to be one of the wild card teams. And
they've also been on a really bad cold streak. 3 straight losses. It looked like they had a very good shot at making the playoffs, and they've been just cold.
Yeah, and so, obviously it's this. It goes two ways because Christian McCaffrey, his team's record is gonna hurt him, but at the same time we don't know what if he's actually not. What if he's not the right go-to option for the Panthers at this point in the season? Maybe they got to try something different because
whatever
they're 5-6.
It takes to win, that they have to do it.
Yeah, I'm not saying
he's competitive.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's.
They want to be playing some competitive football soon, and they, whatever they have to do, to catch that dub.
Yeah,
they have to do.
I'm not saying he's not the right. I'm not saying he's not the right option, but
I know.
I think he is the right option. But as the Panthers coach, you might want to try something different just to see if you can get on the win column, more numbers in the win column. So.
Right. And now moving on to the AFC East, I want to just say a little something about the Jets. They have been very, very, very good lately. Just beating the Raiders. They're coming off their third straight win. They have been playing terrific football. Darnell looks, very healthy. He looks back, and they're winning some football games. And a lot of Jet fans, delusional. I don't want to categorize them, but there's some delusional Jets fans out there who are saying they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs.
They're not.
No
way.
Not.
They're almost eliminated at this point.
They'd have to win every single one of their next games if they wanted to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
moving on from that just for a second. What Jets fans have to realize is this is what they should expect from their quarterback next year. They should expect this for an entire season from
Sam Darnold.
From Sam Darnold next year.
Yeah, and obviously Patrick Mahomes got injured earlier this year, but just keep in mind they're still the division leader, and
7-4.
They
have a pretty cushiony lead.
They probably won't have a bye because of the fact that the Patriots and the Ravens are playing so well. But Patrick, if you watch their games, Patrick Mahomes is still pulling his usual magic. So when it comes playoff time, I'm just saying, don't be surprised if you see them in the Super Bowl.
I won't be surprised. I kind of expect him to be playing, important football games. I expect him to be, around Super Bowl contention or even in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the one game I'm really hoping to see is Chiefs-Ravens in the playoffs. If that happens, I will be watching the whole game because that's, MVP last year versus MVP this year, barring, an injury or Russell Wilson turning it up to an insane notch.
And the Ravens have 7 straight wins, which kind of tells you that they did not get off to the hottest start, which kind of tells you something. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. But 7 straight wins. They were 4-2, and then they just went off, and they've kind of really stolen the North, the AFC North.
Yeah. So do we want to?
And then they have the Bengals at the bottom with 11 straight losses, 0-11.
Yes.
Oh God, they're horrible.
The next topic, which is pro wrestling. So WWE has been building 2 Survivor Series, which happened this past Sunday for the past few weeks, and they also had TakeOver War Games for NXT on Saturday. It was a great overall pay-per-view, and during the women's War Games match, we saw Dakota Kai turn on Tegan Nox. Her team, without her and Tegan Nox, actually happened to still win. So I think that this means that Rhea Ripley will be the one to eventually dethrone Shayna Baszler, who has been rumored to be going to the main roster soon. So it looks like Rhea will be leading the division. And obviously they have a lot of depth with, as I mentioned before Candice, and also obviously on Shayna Baszler's team was her, Io Shirai, Kaylee Ray, Bianca Belair. So they have a lot of potential there. They're going to be successful for many years to come. And the next match was Pete Dunne versus Damian Priest versus Killian Dane. Most people, I feel like, knew Pete Dunne would win just because he made the most sense booking-wise. So he went to challenge for the NXT Championship the next night at Survivor Series. I'll touch on that later on. I think it was a pretty good match, showcasing three really good wrestlers. And Finn Balor beat Matt Riddle. I think it was really awesome to see Finn Balor pull out, the Bloody Sunday, the reverse Bloody Sunday, some of his moves that he used in the past. Specifically I'm talking about New Japan when he used the Bloody Sunday as his finisher. And obviously this is a blow to Matt Riddle, who has been really successful since coming to NXT a while ago. But I think he's going to bounce back from it. I think it's just as long as Finn Balor keeps up this kind of success, it won't look too bad on Matt Riddle. And it looks, honestly, I think Finn Balor might be challenging for the NXT Championship soon. Not like right now, but in a few months probably. Maybe for WrestleMania weekend next year in Tampa. The men's War Games match, I thought that was fantastic. Kevin Owens was a huge surprise, a huge pop. And I think it's a really interesting dynamic that he has with Seth Rollins now. Obviously, who's loyal to Raw and who's not. And obviously Survivor Series is over. The brand warfare thing's a little bit gone. But I feel like it creates another really interesting story, potentially with a different dynamic now, because Seth Rollins attacked Kevin Owens after AOP attacked Kevin Owens at the end of Raw this week. So we could see a repeat of the 2016 feud. Just this time, Kevin Owens is the babyface and Seth Rollins is the heel. And I'll touch on Seth Rollins a little bit more later. Undisputed Era, I thought they were gonna win at Survivor Series after losing the War Games match. Adam Cole won, obviously, but Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly didn't win. The pre-show was pretty okay for Survivor Series. I think that tag match was the best one, and really got to showcase all the three different teams from the three different brands that were a part of it. But onto the main show, I thought the women's three-way. Oh my god, goodness. Well, let's just call it a 15 woman match, elimination match, obviously with three teams. I thought that it was really interesting to see NXT when I thought SmackDown was going to take that one to put Sasha Banks over as uh, one of the top women in the company, but obviously they're really looking to push Rhea Ripley after seeing what they did. Obviously, they had a little bit of help. She had a little bit of help from a returning Candice LeRae and Io Shirai, but I think obviously it would have been better that way for her, but I guess it saves the other teams some face. And yeah, and then moving on to the next match, triple threat between the mid card champions for each brand, Roddy versus AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I thought that it would be really interesting to have Shinsuke Nakamura win because they call him the king of strong styles, basically referencing the last names of the other two competitors in the match. But Roderick Strong won, so Undisputed Era is still going strong. Maybe this creates another rift in the Undisputed Era. Obviously, there hasn't been any sign of that happening, but we don't know if it could happen. We saw it happen before. And what's really interesting about NXT is that I'm mentioning this rift in Undisputed Era. I mean, I think that it was cool to see them stay together because a lot of times on the main roster, especially, they're just like, oh, we'll have some tension and then they split. But it was really cool to have that, to see that, and then make the Undisputed Era even stronger. Now they fulfilled their prophecy of having all four of them as champions. Uh, Also, I just wanted to mention that WWE production. I don't know if those main roster producers really pay attention to NXT because they miss the boom for Roderick Strong. That's obviously a part of the Undisputed Era's entrance. So if the main roster producers aren't paying attention, I feel like you gotta tell them, or they gotta learn for themselves because they can't be doing that. It's their job to provide a good show and everything. And missing a key move, I know in the bigger picture, it's like nothing. But if it, you have to be like think about it in the way that like every single thing like this matters. It gets the crowd involved in the show, and I think missing the boom. You could hear you could audibly hear the boos after they missed it. I think it was a combination of boom and boos for the fact that they missed it. But I think that's an important part that they need to pay attention to next time. The Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne match. At the beginning it was only 14 minutes and 10 seconds, but at the beginning of the match, I thought it was just looking like a typical bad main roster pay-per-view match. I was like, this is terrible. Like, this would never happen on NXT. But all of a sudden, in the middle of the match, things started to get good, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should give this match a chance. And it was absolutely great from there. Obviously, Adam Cole hit the Panama Sunrise on the apron, which was insane. And then, like, I thought that was the best spot we were gonna see from that match. And then he reversed the bitter end into a Panama Sunrise, which got me out of my seat. Like, I was in my room. Usually I gotta stay quiet because people are sleeping, but that had me popping. The Fiend Bray Wyatt defeated Daniel Bryan. It's expected, obviously. People are pressuring WWE to remove the red lights from the match. I think it was a good thing to try, but I feel like it's had its time, and obviously it's not really a good idea because it impedes the view of the viewers at home and also the viewers in the arena. The 15-man elimination men's match between Team SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. I think that Roman Reigns might be getting another big push soon. And obviously, I mean, not obviously, but it's been rumored that he's going to be facing Brock Lesnar again at WrestleMania. So obviously, this is pretty obvious. They've been trying to make him seem like, oh, we're not really going to push him, and obviously they want to get people to cheer him because they want to probably set up the story again. and he just came back from leukemia, so that's gonna give him some cheers. But if it's going down this road, they might have just taken one step forward and five steps back. Another key point from the match was Walter getting eliminated so early, which I think was really unfair because he's the NXT UK champion. He should be looking strong, not like he shouldn't be getting eliminated so fast. And if you're a really diehard wrestling fan, you know how good Walter is. But a good thing about that match was the fact that Keith Lee got a chance to shine. He made it to the end before getting eliminated by Roman Reigns. I actually thought because they want to get more people behind Roman, they actually might give Keith Lee the win. Obviously, that didn't happen. I think it was because they might have wanted to set up a little bit more stakes for the last match, because they wanted to make it so that SmackDown was one win away from NXT's to say that like, oh, if SmackDown wins, they'll tie NXT. They both win and Raw just loses, but obviously that didn't happen. Brock Lesnar defeated Rey Mysterio. I thought that was actually a decent match because it got people really behind Rey Mysterio, and you actually thought he was gonna win when Dominic came in to help him. Didn't happen. Brock still comes out looking strong. Probably gonna end up feuding with Roman for WrestleMania. That's probably why they're keeping the title on him. For the main event, it was honestly, a lot of people were saying it's underwhelming. I don't think it was bad, but I think it was a little bit underwhelming. I'm surprised Shayna got the win. I thought Becky was gonna get the win, or maybe Bayley was gonna sneak it out. I didn't see Shayna winning because NXT was already winning that night, 4-3-1 at that point. But she did pick up the win, makes her look strong. It might be just used to make her loss to Rhea make Rhea look even stronger, and then she moves on to the main roster, still looking like a dominant female wrestler. And honestly, she's one of the better female wrestlers to come along recently. So now moving on to Raw. Obviously the opening segment was Seth Rollins trying to fire up the Raw roster, but I feel like it was a good promo for a babyface, but they because obviously you also understand why the other superstars were upset. Maybe they don't like that kind of tough love, so obviously that evokes a certain emotion out of them, and obviously that can make them upset. So I feel like if they're looking to turn him heel, whether he remains a face or turns heel, I feel like it's good because he has a good reason to stay a face because that was a great face promo, I feel like. But because of everybody else's reaction, if they wanted to turn him heel, he could go in that direction now as well. And obviously people have been pulling for him to turn heel. Personally, I feel like if he can maintain what he was doing in that opening segment on the mic, I feel like he should stay a babyface. But he could obviously be a great heel. He's shown that he could be a great heel. I would love to see him bring back the half dyed blonde hair if he does that. But odds are it probably won't happen. I mean, I just have a feeling it won't happen. Bobby Lashley and Rusev's and Lana's storyline is still continuing. Honestly, I gave this thing a chance, but we all know that Rusev and Lana are still married in real life, and it's just a storyline on television. Lana seemed pretty uncomfortable doing it the previous Raw, so I'm honestly hoping that ends soon. Maybe Mandy and Otis can be a better love storyline. AOP is dominating. Rey Mysterio will beat AJ Styles for the United States Championship. I thought that was really interesting because it seems like they want to keep him around and keep him happy. That's why they give him the title so that he doesn't leave for AEW when his contract expires. But even then, I feel like that loss to Brock was huge, and I still have a feeling he's going to leave WWE. He's worked with Cody and the Young Bucks before, at All In last year, so I really wouldn't be surprised to see him go there. There's a lot of good people he can work with there, whether it be in a tag team. Well, he probably wouldn't be in a tag team, but even as a singles wrestler, there's so many guys that he can work with that he hasn't really had much time to work with before. There's some guys that he hasn't worked with at all before,